So most people picked randomized control trial, and some people picked case control. So let's talk a little bit about study types. So the best answer here was randomized controlled trial, and it's really because in the question STEM, they say that they are assigning people to these groups based on a coin toss. Groups that are being tested are randomized, right? Coin toss is 50-50 one, 50-50 the other. And so any study where you're randomizing people to an exposure versus a placebo or what have you, depending on what you're interested in, would be a randomized controlled trial. So they're looking at intervention versus control. They're randomly assigning, which allows for confounding variables to be evenly distributed, which is why it's the gold standard for any sort of study looking at efficacy of certain interventions over others. And this control study, which I believe is what other people chose, is when you start at the end with your outcome of interest. So, for example, cancer, you may start at the end with people who have a certain type of cancer and people who don't. You divide them by that, and then you look back to see if a certain exposure is present, like an environmental exposure or something like that. And so that's what your case control study is. So you're not randomly picking those groups, you're picking the groups based on the outcome of interest, and then you're retrospectively looking to see if your diseased group had a higher exposure to certain things than your control.